Hello, my name's Chris Paton, and I am the author of this little piece of work called Tracing Your Irish Family History on the Internet. It's the second edition of a book that I first wrote a few years ago. I think it was in 2013. This is the original edition here. Um, the internet obviously is a fast moving thing, and in the last 6 years, 7 years since the first edition was actually recorded, a heck of a lot has happened online for Irish genealogy and Irish family history. So I decided to update the original book, and as well as doing a few tweaks to the original content, there's completely new content in this edition as well. So I'm just going to give you a quick run through of some of the chapters as to what to expect within them. So the first chapter is called the genealogical landscape, and this basically provides an overview of all the main sort of repositories and online websites that you're likely to experience. So we're talking about your ancestries, and we're talking about your National Archives of Ireland or Prony in Belfast, that kind of thing. But then we go into more specifics in the subsequent chapters. So the second chapter is on the vital records, the records of births, marriages, and deaths, and where to find those online. That covers everything from civil registration records to church records and other kinds of records that can help you as well to identify who is related to who. Then the third chapter, it's called Where They Lived, and this is trying to find records online that can help you to understand who was in any one place at any one time. So that includes things like census records, the National Identity Register for Northern Ireland from 1939, census substitutes, land records, a variety of documents that are increasingly available to help you do research. In the fourth chapter, we take a look at occupations, and that includes everything from the military and the police and records of law and order, other professions, architects, all the things that your ancestors might have done, shipbuilders and all of that. And also if your ancestors were poor, if they had no money or they were out of work, how did they seek assistance? Well, there are some records online, and again, I talk a bit about that within that chapter. Then the fifth chapter is a completely new chapter that wasn't covered at all within the first edition of the book, and it's called The Decade of Santinis. And that's a chapter looking at the astonishing amount of records now available online, covering the period from 1912 to 1923, when everything changed in Ireland, not just on the constitutional front, but in terms of the vote for women, workers' rights, and so on. So I cover everything from the First World War, the Home Rule movement, the suffragettes, the Dublin lockout, which I have a personal connection to. And a few other bits and bobs that took place. Obviously, the Easter Rising, the War of Independence, and then the Civil War as well. That takes place within this period. And the partition of Ireland, which led to two separate territories that exist today, which some people are happy with and some people aren't. But it tells you about the records that can pinpoint what your ancestors got up to within this period. It's a period where in the past people didn't really talk about what went on. But now we're a century on. That's why it's called the Decade of Santinis. We're a century on with all these events, and people are now beginning to talk about them and to try to understand where essentially we fit in and where our ancestors fitted in to these kind of momentous events. And then chapters 6 to 9, I essentially go province by province to look at what's available in each of the counties. So obviously the provinces being Ulster, Munster, Connaught and Leinster. And it's a bit more specific as to what's available for each individual county within those provinces. And then the final chapter is called Ireland's Diaspora. And in this chapter I look at the Irish overseas and how to find records of where your ancestors may have migrated to. Because in a lot of cases the story overseas can feed back into the story back in Ireland to the family that stayed behind. So this is the book. It's Tracing Your Irish Family History on the Internet, published by Pen and Sword. You can buy the book from the website of Pen and Sword, which is pen-and-sword.co.uk, and then just type my name in, Chris Paton, and you'll find it and a few other bits and bobs that I've been up to. and hopefully it should be able to help you with your research and to break down some of those brick walls within your family history.